Okay, so I can see people joining the webinar right now. So hello everyone, thanks for joining DJI Enterprise Public Safety webinar series. So we still have like 3 minutes to go. So just waiting for more people to join. On my side, it's already 80, yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
got delivery for you.
Great. Can you just leave it like in front of the crotch?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to sign that? I'll give you a copy.
Sure.
Yeah, I just called and
Sorry, I'm on a webinar.
no, you're fine. I'll just put this on the pallet.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Kyle, you can mute if you have someone talking to you. So today's topic will be drones in search and rescues, insights from veteran search and rescue pilots. The people are still joining the webinar. Let's wait a few more minutes. Is it? So hello everybody, can you hear me right now? If you can type 1 in the chat box. And can you see us here? Okay. Okay, since the video and audio are working fine, so it's already, yeah, okay, let's wait 1 more minute for more people to join. Okay, so let's start right now. So hello everyone and welcome to today's session. This is the third webinar of DJI's Public Safety webinar series. And our topic today is drones in search and rescues, insights from veteran search and rescue pilots. And this is Freda, solution engineer from DJI Enterprise, and I will be the host today. So first of all, I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. And regarding our topic today, I would like to say that among all the different industrial applications for DJI drones, search and rescue, I believe, will be one of the most challenging because it needs to deal with challenging terrains like mountainous areas and also searches in the night, searches after natural disasters. And remember that time is really critical in all those different situations. So, but at the meantime, I believe it is also one of the most valuable or meaningful scenarios because lives are being saved and risks are being reduced. So our topic today here, we have veteran pilots from 3 renowned search and rescue teams to share with us their unique stories regarding DJI drones, with DJI drones. So I'm really honored to introduce our guest speakers today, who are Kyle Nordfors from Weber County Search and Rescue Team. Kyle, would you like to say hi to the audience? Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And also Gemma Alcock from SkyBound Rescuer in UK. Hi, Gemma.
Hiya, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And we also have Daryl Ashford-Smith from Search and Rescue Area Association, Scotland.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Daryl.
Pleasure to be
Good
here.
afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And also we have Stuart Gibson, also from Search and Rescue Area Association, Scotland. Hi, Stuart.
Hi, good to be here.
Thank you. So from DJI side, I would really like to say thank you for taking the time to join this webinar and share your experience and best practice in drone SAR. And our agenda today will be each of the 3 teams will share their own insights regarding the drone search and rescue topic for about 20 minutes. And during this presentation, if you have any questions, please submit it in the questions pane in the control panel. At the end of the webinar, we will have a Q&A session with all the 3 teams. And the recording of this webinar will be sent in the email afterwards and will also be available in DJI Enterprise YouTube channel. So don't worry about that. Okay, so I pass it over to Kyle to start this topic first. Drones in search and rescue from an aviation perspective.
Hi, my name is Kyle Nordfors, and I am the Air Ops Section Chief and Drone Team Coordinator for Weber County Search and Rescue. We are a part of the Weber County Sheriff's Office located in northern Utah in the United States. Weber County is full of beautiful mountains along the Wasatch Mountain Range, home to 3 different ski resorts, one of which hosted the Winter Olympics in 2002. We have beautiful lakes, rivers, and have some of the world's best areas for kayaking, climbing, hiking, backcountry skiing, and snowmobiling. Ogden, our largest city, is known for being an outdoor recreation hub for extreme sports. Before I get too far into my presentation, I'd like to introduce DJI's newest white paper entitled Building a Search and Rescue Drone Program. We at Weber County Search and Rescue were privileged to participate in its making, along with Air Bears, a global network of volunteer drone pilots who have over 7 years' experience deploying drones for SAR. AKUT, a Turkish disaster relief and search and rescue NGO that was established in 1995, which has just recently built their own in-house drone program, and the Croatia Mountain Rescue Team, a national volunteer association established in 1950 that has had their own SAR drone team since 2018. The white paper has advice and a step-by-step process for organizations who are looking to make a difference and adopt drones into their SAR toolkits. DJI will provide a free download link at the end of this webinar. I have been in aviation for over 20 years. It was a childhood dream of mine to be an airline pilot, and I'm lucky enough to be living that dream today. I started my aviation journey in the year 2000 when I became a flight instructor, charter pilot, and volunteer pilot for all and any aerial search efforts. Finally, in 2003, I landed my first airline job flying for an airline out of Hawaii. I am now lucky enough to be flying for Alaska Airlines, which is based out of Seattle, Washington here in the United States, and have logged nearly 18,000 total flight hours. I was able to join Weber Search and Rescue in late 2018 after meeting the director of the team, Lieutenant Mark Horton, at a service project. We were hanging the largest free-hanging American flag in honor of our city's mayor that was killed while serving in the military in Afghanistan. My job was to fly the support lines from one side of the canyon to the other, while the search and rescue climb team rigged the flag into position. After the service project, I asked Lieutenant Horton if I could join the team. While it was painfully obvious that I did not have the requisite skills to join the climb team, the search and rescue command structure was willing to bring me on as a probationary member to see what I could do to add an aviation asset to the team. I was thrilled, and I couldn't wait to help out in any which way I could, but also nervous knowing that I had no formal training in the field of search and rescue. I knew that I would need to have a more capable drone than that of the Phantom 4 Pro and would also need thermal capabilities. In that effort, I reached out to RMUS and purchased my own DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual and began learning the world of thermography and search philosophy. The opportunity to prove the drone's value in SAR didn't have to wait long. On a spring evening around 10 p.m., we received a call of 3 young men that had been hiking for hours and were now lost on a cliff and could not find their way down. These young men did not have any survival gear nor any kind of flashlight other than that on their cell phones. We were able to triangulate their cell phone location, but the confidence of the ping wasn't very high. Ground teams were dispatched to the general location of the ping, while I took to the air with my new DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual to see what I could see. With the aid of the thermal camera on the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, I was able to quickly clear the area of the ping. They were nowhere near that location. Incident Command then dispatched me to another likely location that they believed they might be. While en route to that area, something caught my eye off the edge of the screen. I deviated to the south to investigate, and sure enough, I found the 3 lost hikers. Their location was on the opposite canyon ridge of the initial ping where the climb team was now currently searching. I had the spotlight mounted on top of the drone and was able to light them up. Due to the telemetry that the Enterprise line of DJI drones produce, I was able to get the coordinates of the lost hikers to our ground teams so they could get to the patients. In addition, I was able to aid the ground teams with their situational awareness by positioning the drone directly over the patients, shining the spotlight in the direction of the ground teams. This gave them a visual of where and how far they needed to hike to get to the patients. During the battery change, Team 1 found our patients and started to assess them. The team found them to be hypothermic, as all they were wearing were shorts and short-sleeve shirts with the outside air temperature only 2 degrees C. Had it taken our teams much longer to find these 3 lost individuals, their physical situation would have been much worse. Our team gave them warmer clothes and harnesses to aid in the descent off the mountain. During the rescue, we were able to capture this amazing video of our climb team aiding our patients off the mountain. This one rescue sealed the deal to our command structure that we needed to get serious about formally implementing a drone program into our SAR ops. As the program manager, I really had to explore and do research as to the best way to implement this aviation asset into our existing SAR program. This would require recruiting pilots with a remote pilot certificate and creating standard operating procedures, SOPs, that are simple and safety promoting. Looking through our team's existing SOPs and those of other SAR teams, I was at a loss that none of them could fit the bill for what the drone dynamics are. In addition, any drone operations will have oversight from the government agency that controls the airspace. For us in the United States, that agency is the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. Given that our drone program would have FAA oversight, I decided the best way to implement this program would be to do so from an aviation perspective. The world's airlines have mastered the method of promoting safety and running operations with a proven track record. It is often said that aviation regulations are written in blood. We learn from past mistakes in an effort to reduce risk and increase safety. I wanted to piggyback on that philosophy. Our program wasn't going to be a haphazard addition to our ground operations, but rather its own entity built from the lessons of over 100 years of manned flight. Our SOPs are written in the same manner and specificity as the world's leading airlines. We also adhere to the same level of safety protocols. Examples of this would be our version of a sterile cockpit. Our pilots are left alone to be able to concentrate fully on the safe operation of the aircraft. Like airlines, we operate as crews, helping and supporting each other to maintain an optimum level of safety. We have checklists that look very familiar to those of the world's largest aircraft. As an operating crew, we teach, practice, and encourage all members of the team to utilize Crew Resource Management, CRM, that was developed by the airlines in the 70s after a few crashes. Our simple goal is this: to assist our ground teams by elevating the safety and efficiency of rescues to increase the number of lives saved. In April of 2020, our emergency dispatch received a call that 2 individuals were lost and stuck above a cliff on one of our popular trails called Indian Trail. Once near the top of the climb, over snow-covered trails with the sun setting, our 2 patients, Barbara and David, lost track of the trail and ended up finding themselves on a cliff that they couldn't descend. Barbara, being in her 70s, didn't feel comfortable traversing the slippery, snowy trails at night and therefore decided to call 911 and requested search and rescue. At 2100 hours, Incident Command was established at one of the trailheads that was easily accessible for our climb team to assemble and to be dispatched. However, to be more centrally located and to be able to see the entire trail, my drone team climbed into a deputy's truck and established a remote command site inside of Ogden Canyon, from which we could begin our aerial search. Our team consisted of 3 people. I was the remote pilot in command, Debbie was our visual observer, and the deputy ran our communications and kept our flight operations area clear. Barbara and David went on their hike prepared and had an emergency blanket and headlamps. Thanks to these items, I was able to find them very quickly with the drone. Once their coordinates were known, I was able to radio them to our ground teams, which enabled them to hike straight to their location without the need for searching for hours on the cold, snowy patch trails. After assessing their condition, the climb team equipped our 2 patients with harnesses and assisted them off the mountain without any problem. Earlier this year, this rescue caught the attention of Outside Magazine. The magazine sent author Dan Schwartz to come interview and recreate the rescue, as our drone program was the key tool used to locate our lost patients. This story, with all the fun details, is in the September-October issue of Outside Magazine, which is on the magazine shelves today. In March of this year, our SAR team received a call stating that a man had become lost on a trail. He could still see the city from his location, but had no way of getting off the mountain, was cold, hypothermic, and couldn't walk. Our dispatch was able to ping his cell phone to get his location, and it came back with a high location confidence, and we launched the drone to try to get eyes on our patient. With our DJI M300, we searched and searched the location given to us from the cell phone company, but our patient was nowhere to be found. We started systematically to search the surrounding areas and canyons, at least to clear the obvious areas. With ground teams searching the trails and the drone in the air, we were able to definitely say that our patient was not in a 2-mile radius of the initial cell phone ping, so we branched out further to the areas that we thought he could be in. Thanks to the thermal camera and the zoom lens on the H20T, we were able to find our patient 3 canyons to the north of the initial cell ping and captured video of him waving to the drone. With the laser rangefinder, we gave the coordinates to our ground teams who, with the help of the Weber Fire Department, were able to extract the patient off the mountain in a litter. It was this rescue that counted as Rescue 600 on the DJI Drone Saves map that Adam Meisberg has put together. While I had a lot of experience in aviation and flying drones, I still felt I had a lot to learn when it came to search philosophy and SAR best practices. I quickly came to the conclusion that I needed to expand my team to include those that were highly experienced in their own discipline of search and rescue. The Weber County Search and Rescue team is broken up into smaller teams where each volunteer is an expert in their discipline. Our climb team members are expert riggers. Mounted team members are highly experienced riders. Same can be said for our dive team, backcountry skiers, snowmobile teams, and motorcycle teams. Due to the high experience, I decided that we needed to integrate the drone program into each team to expand the drone's impact in our life-saving efforts. To do this, I selected a member or two from each of the teams to get licensed by the FAA to fly legally in SAR operations and taught the class myself. What this resulted in was the merging of years of experience in both aviation and search and rescue, where we all were able to learn from each other. We began a program that was disciplined and pulled the best concepts from each field and started developing our own UAV SAR best practices. We quickly learned the importance of having multiple team members for every call-out. The pilot works best if we unload his or her duties. The pilot in command's first responsibility is to ensure the safe operation of the aircraft. To accommodate the PIC staying focused on the aircraft, we have a visual observer to assist in maintaining visual line of sight and to also run the communications, but also a searcher or squinter whose sole responsibility is to watch the live feed from the drone and is focused on searching for our lost patient. To accommodate this, we have implemented a system of broadcasting our live feed back to a bigger screen in our drone trailer where our incident command is stationed. We do this with a simple video broadcast unit. With this setup, we have more eyes on the screen, incident command is able to follow along with progress, and most importantly, the pilot in command is able to focus on the safe operation of the aircraft. Given the fact that we work with multiple crew members for each drone operation, our pre-flight briefing, just like is done on any flight deck, is crucial to establish who is filling what role. The PIC is designated, receives a full briefing from Incident Command, and brings that back to his crew. During this briefing, duties are handed out. The PIC is responsible to ensure each crew member is properly informed about their mission and their roles. Just like every aviation operation, we have each role spelled out in our SOPs, so there isn't any confusion. When starting up a new program, what to use in your fleet is the top question that is asked. For search and rescue, there are very few drones that will fit the bill for all the required components that will increase your reach and capability as a life-saving force. One of the most important features a drone needs to have is to have a long endurance to provide you ample time to be able to find your patients. You will also need to have a high-quality camera setup that provides a crisp, clean image that is being fed back to the control station. A thermal camera is an asset that will increase your capabilities, particularly flying at night, as the thermal imager will allow you to navigate clearly and safely. And lastly, having a far enough range to reach the limits of your search area. When you compare the available options out there, including the price, the DJI product clearly wins. There are two other manufacturers out there that have a competing product, but they currently are unable to meet the DJI price point. The DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced that was newly released is a powerhouse of a life-saving tool. Its capability enables rescuers to put this tool into their backpack and take it with them out into the field. It comes with a high-resolution thermal imager that used to cost tens of thousands of dollars. The reach and flight time of this small package is one that we turn to often to help us save lives. The staple in our fleet are our two DJI Matrice M300s carrying the H20T payload coupled with the GL60 zoom spotlight. The M300 RTK is by far the workhorse of the SAR industry, delivering capabilities that no other manufacturer can match. With its advertised 55-minute flight time with hot swap battery capabilities, IP45 rating, the M300 RTK paired with the H20T is a SAR drone pilot's dream. The H20T is the key to making this such a powerful tool with its 20-time optical zoom, thermal imager, and laser rangefinder. We have used this on multiple rescues where the drone was credited for locating the patients in a very short time, acquiring the coordinates, enabling us to radio their locations to our ground teams. The user interface is intuitive and is virtually the same as the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. However, one of my favorite features of the M300 RTK is the heads-up display that mimics that which we use in commercial aviation. The flight display makes this drone a breeze to fly. Just as in each mission, you need to keep track of where you search and who was the pilot in command of each flight. To manage and keep track of our missions, we use an app called Air Data that runs in the background of our smart controllers and uploads all mission data to be accessed by our incident command in real time or in post. With Air Data, we are also able to broadcast what the drone is seeing to our ground teams to help increase their situational awareness, keeping them informed as much as possible. Keeping track of your flights is vital to ensure you cover the entirety of the desired search area. Air Data is truly an amazing service, providing an incredible amount of information for analysis. It cannot be overstated the value of having a trailer or a van that has a couple of big screen TVs that you're able to broadcast the signal to. Our trailer doubles as a gear locker for our climb team and also as a drone trailer that we use to run our incident command from. With the big screens in the trailer, we are able to get briefings with one screen tied to a computer showing a topographical map and the other screen showing what the drone is currently looking at. Having the squinter positioned in front of the screen looking at things in a big, high-def resolution format, they are able to see things that we would never be able to see on our small control station screens. In summary, drones are single-handedly changing the way in which search and rescue teams operate. They have become a vital tool to enhance rescuers' abilities to save even more lives. In addition, they are increasing the level of safety for the SAR team members in the field. It is my belief, when implementing a drone program, respecting the drone for the asset that it is, should be done from an aviation perspective. SOPs, training, and team structure should all be set up in a way in which safety is promoted, enabling crews to push the aircraft to its limit. Pulling from over 100 years of flying experience, we should learn from the airlines and other aviation entities and build upon their foundation and success. If you are a seasoned rescuer desiring to start a program, I would highly encourage you to seek out an aviation professional that can help set the program up. And if you're an experienced aviator, seek out those that have the experience on the ground. The merging of these two disciplines is exciting, and it's saving lives. Thank you so much for your time. Please reach out to me if I can be of any assistance. Stay safe.
So thanks a lot, Kyle, for this presentation. Or maybe I would rather call it like a documentary film of how you have built the drone capability in the Weber County Search and Rescue Team from scratch. This video actually took us on a journey with you to go along all your missions you've had and experience those experiences you've had and learn the lessons you've learned. So I'm sure it will definitely be so helpful for the public safety agencies who are on the same path to explore drone applications in search and rescue. So next one, let's move on to the second topic today, mountain rescue drone search strategies, presented by Search and Rescue Area Association Scotland. So I will pass it over to Daryl and Stuart.
Hello and welcome to all of you that have joined us for this series of DJI webinars. Firstly, we would like to thank the DJI team for this opportunity to share the information, and secondly, we would like to thank and welcome you to our session, which will describe the journey our organisation has taken in getting a robust system of work in place for search procedures in the mountain environment. Presenting today is both Stuart and myself, Both Stuart and I are drone pilots, and Stuart is also the team training officer. Today, we will be covering an overview of the organisation, the background of how we developed our procedures, the difficulties that we have experienced, drone search principles, search strategies, procedures, and search types. The Search and Rescue Aerial Association Scotland is a relatively new volunteer organisation that relies wholly on donations. We are affiliated to Scottish Mountain Rescue and cover the whole of Scotland by means of having a number of strategically located drones available 24/7. We provide governance and support to pilots from any mountain rescue team in Scotland. The team are normally mobilised through the Scottish Police via a request from a mountain rescue team. Our pilots and aircraft are all registered and certified according to the Civil Aviation Authority requirements. The team presently fly a number of the Mavic series of drone, the choice of which strikes a balance between affordability, the type of ground we cover, the type of incident we attend, along with the weather conditions, all of which can be somewhat challenging. The system of work that has worked extremely well for us is that the pilot's primary responsibility is to ensure safe flight, closely followed by flying a suitable search pattern. The sensor operator will be responsible for the actual searching by using a set of goggles, allowing them an unobstructed view without external influences such as screen reflection that can often happen with a tablet, for example. We strictly follow the UK drone code and have our own set of concept of operations to follow. When the organisation was set up, there were very limited search strategies or procedures available for us to work from. In addition, mission planning software was very expensive and unsuitable for the mountainous environment which we work in. Due to this, we developed a baseline to work from with common terminology and standardised search procedures. The search patterns that we have developed have been modified from a combination of land and maritime search patterns. The basic principles that we have laid down are that the pilot is responsible for safe flight and flying the search pattern. Only the sensor operator should search. Large search areas should be split into smaller areas. Familiarization of the target should be carried out before the search commences. Search should commence prior to the search start points or boundaries. All search sweeps should overlap. The height, speed, and camera angle may differ for each search. The drone should be held static periodically, and areas will be obscured from the field of view as the ground rises and falls. The colour of off-the-shelf drones is generally white, black, or grey, which tends to blend into the background of the mountains or sky when searching. Very early on, it was apparent that this did not suit the mountain environment, so each of our aircraft is now covered in a high visibility wrap. This enables the pilot to see the drone much easier against the background of the mountains or the sky. When deciding which aircraft to deploy, we must think carefully about the conditions on the hill and the capability of the aircraft. Ordinarily, a walker out in the open would be considered to be easily found with the thermal image camera. However, as this video shows, the conditions on this day were very warm, which makes the walker very difficult to see when using the thermal image camera and much easier to locate on visible camera. If they were stood still, they may be almost impossible to see, whereas on a cold day, this may be a different case. We always promote for those that use the mountains to wear bright colour clothing, which is correct. However, in some conditions, they may not stand out as easily as one would have thought. The drone in the video is less than 200 meters away from its start point, and yet it is only when it is flown closer does the bright orange shelter begin to stand out. In conditions like in the video, where the light may not be bright and might be subdued, even oranges and reds do not stand out very well. How the search is conducted may be critical, and dead ground should always be considered. If the search is conducted with the camera facing forwards, a casualty in a hollow in the ground may be missed. If the camera is facing straight down, on this occasion, the casualty may be able to be seen. A combination of both methods may have to be used on the same search. This video highlights the need to hold the drone or camera static from time to time during the search, as even a moving casualty may be missed. A red circle will appear with movement showing, which is a barking dog. Had the drone or camera not been held static, the movement would have easily been missed. When given a large area to search, it is beneficial for the pilot to split the area into segments so that areas of a more manageable size can be searched. All search areas must overlap with another, so it is definite that the whole area has been covered. When searching a linear feature, such as a pathway, the search should commence before the actual start point and finish beyond the end point. This ensures an overlap and that no areas are missed. If the search started on the actual start point with the camera facing forward, a section of the area may be missed. The team have developed terminology for different search patterns. For example, this search is called a moving linear search, as the drone is flown along the feature. This pattern is called a static linear search, as the drone is held static using the camera and zoom to search rather than the movement of the drone. This may be used ordinarily when the drone is nearing the limit of its line of sight from the pilot, and the zoom can be used to search further along the feature with the drone held static. This search pattern is called a creeping line search. The search moves along the same direction of the casualty if this information is known. The search sweep widths depend on the information received about the casualty and if they are likely to deviate from the track for any reason. This is an actual flight track of a creeping line search. This is flown manually, so not wholly accurate and takes some time to master. You can see the pilot has planned the search efficiently by locating themselves in the middle as opposed to either end. This way, they can send the aircraft out to their line of sight, covering twice the distance, which would not be the case if they had started from either of the ends. For a river search, it is often best to search each bank from the opposite side, as any undercuts and underneath overhanging trees may be seen better. The light and cloud coverage may have a bearing on what can be seen in the water due to reflection. This is the same location as the last slide, however, just a small difference of the drone location or angle of the camera may make all the difference. A pilot must be aware of what casualties look like in different scenarios. For example, the swimmer, when viewed through a thermal image camera, may not look like a swimmer. The arms and legs may be expected to be seen, but are not, due to them being in the water or not out of the water long enough to show a different heat signature. When using the thermal image camera, differing colour palettes should be tried to acquire the best image for the conditions showing. These images show a comparison between a casualty dressed in differing layers of clothing or protection. The top left-hand image shows a casualty in shorts and t-shirt. The top right in jumper and trousers. The bottom left inside a bivy bag, followed by bottom right with the casualty fully within a group shelter. The clothing or shelters are shielding the heat from the thermal image camera. Again, the type of capability should be chosen carefully and according to the specific circumstances and conditions. This is an area search pattern which covers the whole area in a grid. The distance between search sweeps will depend on the height of the aircraft, the complexity of the ground, and the type of vegetation. Due to the angle of the camera and the possibility of not observing dead ground areas, a further sweep from another direction is normally required. These are live flight tracks from an area search. The one on the left is flown manually and the one on the right is flown using flight mapping software. Although very much more accurate, with almost guaranteed overlaps, flight mapping is limited in the mountainous environment due to the search being conducted at the same height and not following the contours of the ground. When searching on a gradient, such as the side of a hill, it is easier to fly searching along the contours rather than across them, as there is less input required by the pilot. If the flight track was across the contours, the pilot would have to fly forwards while ascending. When searching a ridge, it is better to search along it, as the ground angle will change as the drone goes over the ridge and would normally cause a differing and less suitable angle and field of view. The search pattern for the ridge is carried out with the drone facing inwards and following along the contours and not against them, as previously discussed. When searching a forested area, the tree line should be searched from each side as well as from above and into the canopy. Searching the tree line ensures that observation may be achieved under the tree canopy.
Thanks, Daryl. I'd just like to go over some of the recent deployments that SARRA have had, two in particular. First case was a missing female despondent. The ground was very complex. It was a tidal estuary with mudflats over a large area. We had a large amount of teams searching the bank area, and we had swiftwater rescue technicians deployed in the water and more complex area. The second case study that I'd like to go over is a wildfire. We were called to assist the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. The fire had been burning for approximately 24 hours. There were several fire fronts, and they had limited resources in a very remote area. Footage from the search shows that it was a very challenging environment to work in. We had steep cliffs and dangerous mudflats. It's a tidal estuary, so we could only search at low tide, meaning we had a limited time window. The drone covered areas quickly and efficiently by overflowing large lengths of shoreline that otherwise would have had to be looked at on foot. We had swiftwater rescue technicians searching some of the more complex areas. They were working with the drone, and we found that we could direct the search easily from a height of approximately 50 meters. However, we did find that effective communications between pilot, observer, and the rest of the team were essential in order to make good progress. We estimated an 80% probability of a find, which I think you'd agree in this kind of environment is pretty much unheard of, proving how useful the drone was. The next slide shows the flight tracks of the DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise drone that we were using. The image on the left illustrates how large areas of open water can be searched with ease, flying manual grid patterns using the map display on our smart controller. More spaced out for open water, whilst condensing the pattern over difficult terrain. The image on the right shows how we covered a 2-kilometre stretch of shoreline with steep cliffs and areas with no access. Both these tracks were forwarded to the police search advisors at the end of each day, and then working with a forensic oceanographer, they worked to formulate a plan for the next day's searching. Decision was taken to scale back our efforts after 6 days, and the casualty was eventually recovered a further 7 days after this. This footage was from a large wildfire in a remote mountainous area of southwest Scotland. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service asked for assistance in dealing with the incident. SARRA mountain rescue team members used the thermal capability of the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced to quickly capture important footage needed by the incident commander in order to make tactical decisions. The operating environment was pretty unique, with large amounts of smoke combined with the constant threat of a changing direction of travel of the fire. We operated out to our maximum distance of 500 metres and a maximum altitude of 120 metres. We were able to record the visual and infrared footage and make it available immediately. Because of the response, the fire front was stopped from reaching the wooded area as shown by the last piece of film. The portable size and weight of the Mavic 2 Enterprise meant it was easy to negotiate the fairly long hike into the fire, and we were able to get airborne very quickly indeed. This video shows what a huge step forward the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced is when being used to contribute towards this type of fire. High quality, high resolution thermal imagery allows incident commanders to make decisions based on live intelligence, whilst also allowing an evaluation of the impact of the response to be made in real time.
Nice one, Stu. Thanks very much for that. So in summary, we've discussed the background of our organisation and how we developed our search procedures and strategies. We discussed the difficulties, the principles, and the search types. Once again, we'd like to thank DJI for allowing us to share our information, and we look forward to any feedback from any organisation, and you can get in contact with us on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Daryl and Stuart, for the presentation. It has really dived deep into this specific scenario, search procedures in a mountainous environment, and it has provided us so many practical tips for the actual searching process that I never thought about. I believe it must have been accumulated with years and years experience, real experience. So those kinds of details will probably make the difference in the result of a search mission. Yeah. And our next topic will also be the result related to the result of a search mission. It is assessing the quality of a drone search. I will pass it over to Gemma from SkyBound Rescuer.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world today. I'm Gemma Alcock, and I have a really exciting new development to share with you today that will hopefully help to improve your drone SAR performance. But firstly, I'll explain who I am and who I work for. So I'm the founder and CEO of SkyBound Rescuer, and we specialize in the use of drones for public safety. I've spent the past 7 years researching into best practice for many different public safety use cases for drones, but SAR, or search and rescue in particular. A lot of this research has been cutting edge, never been done before, because this is such a new area, which has allowed me to travel the world pre-COVID, to share my research far and wide with many different public safety agencies, from the UK to Australia, from the USA to the UAE. Because of this, I became the second ever recipient of Drone Responders Award for Public Safety Drone Leadership for the impact of my work on worldwide drone public safety programs. Separate to that, I've been in the life-saving community for almost 10 years. I started as a beach lifeguard for the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, or RNLI as they're more commonly known, where I worked my way up to senior beach lifeguard, trainer assessor and helm of the inshore rescue boat. I then progressed into flood rescue, where I became a swift water rescue technician, rescue boat operator and water incident manager. Then I evolved from water onto land and was headhunted by Lowland Rescue, a SAR charity that has 34 member teams across the UK. I was asked to become a consultant to their air operations department, and after 6 weeks, I was asked to step up as head of department for their air operations, which is a position I still hold today. So I now have two main roles within this industry: founder and CEO of SkyBound Rescuer and head of air operations for Lowland Rescue. And today I'm speaking on behalf of SkyBound Rescuer. So today I want to share with you our latest research outcome, which is a framework for assessing drone search quality. But before I do, I want to share with you a case study from one of Lowland Rescue's member teams, Nottinghamshire SAR team, or NSAR for short. On the 21st of November 2020, NSAR's drone team were asked to search for a deceased missing male that was known to have entered the river. The River Trent had burst its banks, causing widespread flooding, meaning that the majority of the search area was inaccessible by ground teams. So the police had to heavily rely on NSAR's drone team for the search. They had to split up the wide area into search segments to allow for battery changes. And what they found is that not every segment could be searched to the same quality. Some areas of the water were really dark and muddy, and it was known that the missing person was wearing dark clothing, so the likelihood of spotting him would have been low. Some areas were cluttered with tree coverage and other strainers, which would have reduced their ability to detect a missing person because of the amount of background distraction. Some open areas had a lot of reflection of sunlight, which was overexposing the image and reducing the details. And then other areas were perfect conditions for the drone, with great detail in the image. However, without a framework for communicating the quality level of each search segment, they had to spend a lot of time searching areas again and reviewing the footage again and again and again. It was a very long search that ended up spanning over a number of days. Now, they told me that a framework for clearly communicating drone search quality would have really helped, to know which areas were searched sufficiently in the first instance and which areas needed review and for what reason. Perhaps adding an ND filter for the areas of overexposure, or perhaps sending a boat team instead for other areas because, say, the conditions were not appropriate for the drone. Without that assessment framework, tactical decision making was made very difficult. And this is one of many case studies that motivated SkyBound Rescue to start reviewing this problem. And as a result, I have developed a search quality assessment framework that I'd like to share with you today. So I mentioned before that SkyBound Rescue have spent the past 7 years researching into drone best practice for public safety applications. It is this research that has informed the search quality assessment process. So firstly, let me share some of that process with you. I've researched into search planning methods used by police search advisors, police drone teams, the National Police Air Service, urban SAR teams, fire drone teams, lifeguards, lifeboats, the list goes on. Drones are a very new capability in comparison to other SAR disciplines. So I wanted to review other SAR best practice and how they developed that best practice to find any transferable lessons, hence the long list. I didn't just review SAR teams that were using drones. I have also conducted drone tests that trialed principles learned from lost person behaviours, the International Aeronautical and Maritime SAR Manual, and effective resolution. Effective resolution is a principle that defines how many pixels an object needs to be on your screen in order to detect, recognize, or identify it. All of this helped me to determine the variables that impact the performance of drones when locating missing persons. And these variables were split into correction factors, the factors we can mitigate through mission tactics, and variable factors, factors we cannot control, such as terrain. We have no say in the terrain that we need to search. So if I circle back to the need for a search quality assessment framework, such a framework needs to score the variable factors, the things we cannot control for our mission plans. Essentially, the assessment needs to score the number of variable factors within any given search that could be detrimentally impacting performance in order to indicate quality. So that instead of simply saying that area has been searched, we can start saying that area has been searched, say 95% quality, for example. So the police search advisor or search planner can make an informed decision on whether that area can be considered clear at that time or not. And if the quality is below a certain level, an informed decision can be made about whether the drone must fly the mission again or whether a different resource is needed to cover that search area. And today I thought I'd take you through the methodology I've developed for scoring search quality in the hope that it proves useful to other SAR teams outside of my own. So first of all, bear in mind when a request for drone support comes in, we have a viability assessment that ensures a drone is the suitable asset for the request. The search quality assessment that I'm going through today is therefore only being applied to missions where a drone will add value. So the search quality will never be 0% because it would not have passed our viability assessment that comes before this. Also bear in mind that the correction factors, the other set of variables I mentioned, that play a part in search quality have been mitigated through our mission plan. So this process is only scoring the factors that impact our performance that we cannot control or mitigate. And based on our numerous flight trials, we have found that the variable factors come under 3 main categories: color contrast, size, background clutter, visibility, and human factors. Firstly, color contrast helps objects to stand out more clearly on your screen when you're searching, so obviously making it easier or harder to find someone. We rarely know the exact color of the missing person's clothing. Even saying blue can have many different interpretations in terms of shades of blue. So we haven't asked for every different color that we could possibly experience. Instead, if the person on land is not wearing high-vis clothing, then we have assumed poor contrast. If the person in the water is not wearing a personal flotation device or a buoyancy aid, then we have assumed poor contrast. Secondly, the size of your missing person will impact how many pixels that person appears on your screen, and therefore how easy or hard it is for you to detect them. So if they're aged under 18, then we can assume that they'd be smaller than an adult in most cases. Also, if you are searching for an adult that is below average in height or weight, then they will be a smaller object on your screen. Thirdly, background clutter also impacts our ability to detect objects. So if you have a very busy background like vegetation or breaking waves, then it makes it harder to spot a human-sized object with that level of, say, background distraction. We have land-based background clutter like vegetation, hills, mountains, or tree coverage. Then we have coastal and maritime-based background clutter like waves, whitecaps on water, and the shoreline. Instead of expecting the drone pilot that's searching over water to know the sea state, we've based it on wind speed, something that every drone pilot will be aware of. And in the Beaufort scale, it states that wind speeds of 17 knots will start to experience whitecaps on the water. And as the wind speed increases from that point onwards, the waves are cresting and breaking. So we've assumed that 17 knots or more over water will experience background clutter. Also, whether the wind speeds are high or not, when the water meets the shoreline, there will be white water, visible movement, etc. And therefore, a coastal shoreline will always add background clutter, so we have scored that accordingly too. Then we have the usual visibility considerations that affect all forms of SAR disciplines: fog, rain, haze, and snow. But we have also added in clear sunny sky, because a clear sunny sky causes overexposure with a camera, which blows out the image and reduces the level of detail on your screen, which means when it comes to drones, a clear sunny sky can actually be a visibility hindrance. With that same logic, we have included flying over water as a visibility factor too, because the light being reflected off water can overexpose the image in the same way as a clear sunny sky. We also have humidity, because it can steam up the camera. Then we have midday. Even when it is cloudy, midday sun will cause overexposure without an ND filter in most cases. An ND filter being a neutral density filter, essentially sunglasses for a camera to block out levels of sunlight. Even when the correct ND filter is used, performance can be impacted because, say, shadowed areas will become even darker, which can cause details to be lost. So there's a scoring system for midday with different ND filters too. Then lastly, there's a score for darkness hours. Now remember that this assessment is done only if a request has passed our viability assessment. So if it was during darkness hours and we only had a visual camera available, then we wouldn't have accepted the request, and it wouldn't have reached this stage. So this score would only be applicable for thermal drones. And lastly, there's human factors. So again, this assessment is only done if a request has passed our viability assessment. So if there was a critical human factor consideration with the drone pilot that could impact safety, then we wouldn't have accepted the request. Which means the human factor that's left to consider is the fatigue of remote searchers, the people that are viewing the drone's, say, live stream or recorded footage to locate the missing person. And that is the assessment criteria. All that SAR teams need to do is circle the factors that apply to their search, Each factor has an associated score based on how much it impacts performance relative to other factors. Then you add up the total score. This table then equates your variable factor score to a search quality percentage. And we encourage drone pilots to conduct this as a post-flight procedure to be used in debriefs and also to be used in handovers when the search is ongoing, but it could also add value to as a pre-flight procedure as well. As I've mentioned before, this is a new development, but we hope that having a consistent and clear framework for communicating search quality after a drone search will bring tremendous value. A similar process is used by Her Majesty's Coast Guard that calculates probability of detection with helicopters and lifeboats, which has been adopted from the International Aeronautical and Maritime SAR Manual, or IAMSAR. It helps the Coast Guard to decide whether they need to send more resources to cover a search area or not. For example, if the probability of detection is below 79% for one resource, they send 2 or more until the probability of detection is 79% or greater, because they know that's the sweet spot for best performance. This method of calculating probability of detection and using that calculation for tactical decision making has been used successfully for many years by many Coast Guard services around the world. And we hope our new framework can have the same impact for SAR drone teams. And here's an example of how this assessment could be used for tactical decision making. Say, if the search quality is 82 to 100%, then that area can be considered clear at that time. If the search quality is 50 to 77%, another drone flight over that same area should be considered with amendments, for example, with an ND filter or with fresh remote searches that aren't fatigued. The amendments should depend on which variable factors were impacting your results. And lastly, if the search quality is below 50%, there are too many variable factors at play to improve the score to a reasonable level. And so it's time to consider another resource. For example, send a ground team or a water team instead. Or wait for search conditions to improve, such as weather conditions, if that is what's impacting your results. So you can see how this assessment framework can help SAR teams to make more informed decisions. And I will be publishing this assessment framework onto SkyBoundRescueProject.com very, very soon. So please do follow SkyBound Rescue on social media to be alerted of that. Thank you for listening, and I hope you found that useful, and I'd be very happy to take any questions now. Thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot, Gemma. It's really refreshing to hear about this new methodology to assess the quality of a drone search. While we try to leverage drone technology in search and rescue missions, I believe it is indeed crucial for us to notice that drones also have their unique boundaries and limitations. So to have a reasonable expectation for the quality of a drone search will definitely help in the overall search and rescue process and increase the chance to find the victim. Okay, so that's the presentation part today, and next we'll move on to the Q&A part. I saw already some of you have submitted your questions here, and if not, you can also still post the questions here and I will read them. And yeah, our panelists, please enable your camera. And yes, I saw a few of you were asking for the Weber County Search and Rescue checklist. So Kyle, is it possible to get a copy of the checklist from you?
Absolutely. We have 2 different checklists for our individual drones that are specific to that type of drone. And if people just shoot me an email, I'm happy to share those checklists.
Yeah, and I will also share the Kyle's contact email later. And for those of you who are interested, you can just send the email to Kyle. And the second question, how does weather, especially rain, affect your operations? Other than the M300, are you all eager for a waterproof Mavic-sized drone? well, I guess that is a question that DJI should be really interested in. So and I think it depends on different areas and the weather conditions. So what's your idea about this question? For all of you, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I would say as someone that flies on the coast a lot, weather resistance is something that would be very excited about if it could improve, especially in the Mavic-sized drones. I know it's starting to come with the M300, but they're slightly harder for us to transport everywhere, especially if we're walking over soft sand for quite some time before we get to where we have to take off. It's quite the workout if it's a heavier drone. So yeah, the smaller drones, if they improve in weather resistance, then that would be great for us.
So what about the other teams? Yeah.
I think from us in Scotland, we do have quite a lot of rainy days in Scotland, so it is a very limiting factor, especially working in kind of mountain regions. So having a drone the size of Mavic 2 Enterprise that is weather resistant will be really, really useful for us.
And you, Kyle, is that waterproof capability also matters a lot to you?
Oh, it absolutely does. So with our M300s, we're able to put those up in the air and not be overly concerned about the weather. Here in Utah, we get obviously a lot of snow, and so we can potentially fly in a lot of icing conditions, and so we need to be cognizant of that. But having a Mavic size drone that we can put in the backpack of our snowmobile teams, for example, to be able to, when they go out 5, 6, 7 miles, to be able to toss that up and not worry about the weather would be invaluable to us.
Yeah, I would agree that, you know, those capabilities, including like waterproof and also the other capabilities really, like for example, like wind resistance and the other environment endurance capabilities are really important for the search and rescue missions. But the tricky part from the manufacturer point of view is the balance of different, you know, points and features. For example, like flight time and also the portability of the drone. So currently, I would say that M300 is the one what we have right now. But I'm sure in the future we will also try to bring the capabilities of M300 into smaller and more portable platforms like the Mavic. But yeah, it may be end up something in between, but we're not sure. And by looking still, I'm positive for the future. Yeah. Okay, so the next question, I guess, is for Daryl and Stuart. Could you specify the names of the search patterns?
Sure. So we've kept our list of search patterns as simple as we can. So we've broken it down into 6 key search patterns. And they're dictated by the feature. So the first 3 are linear features. So we've got a flying linear search, which is where we'll be flying along the track, for an example. We've got the static linear search, which we'll be holding, but we'll be searching by using the camera on the linear feature. We've got a creeping line search, and just like the maritime creeping line search, it's where you're searching in a particular direction. So if we've got information that casualty has walked north, for example, along that feature, then we'll search north for either side of the linear feature also. We've got a point of interest search, which is, as it says, just flying straight up to the point of interest and flying around it. We've got a grid search, which covers an area. And the last one is a mountain face search, which is simply facing the face of the mountain or cliff face. So just trying to keep it simple for the pilots.
Okay, thanks. And the next question, do you recommend safety altitude to fly over fire? What is the best distance? I guess this is more of a question for the the firefighting scenario. We also have actually a webinar for the use of thermal, especially in the fire scene. So if you're interested, you can go to that webinar and listen to what they say. And next question, are only camera systems used for search and rescue so far, Or are there also the other sensors in service? What about sensors to precisely geolocate standard mobile phones, even in areas with no cell phone network coverage? So does any of you have an experience with this question?
I know there are some systems available. I know the one of the Polish rescue teams were working with the system, but I do know it was quite difficult to get on board because of the security and data issues with that type of thing. But that would be a very good capability to have.
Yeah, we were going to trial some technologies with the Coast Guard, but we couldn't get Ofcom permissions to do so. So I haven't used it as a trial or operationally yet. But it's clearly an area that would add value if we can do it legally.
Yeah, but also as far as I know, because he's asking, are there any payloads besides the camera sensors? As far as I know, we're also using like payload drop systems, for example, to drop a blanket or even maybe like a mobile phone communication device for the victim. And also we have the speaker as well as the spotlight. So those are also useful in the search and rescue missions.
I would say the spotlight.
Yeah,
we've used the spotlight actually last night in a training scenario on a cliff where the spotlight was absolutely invaluable at highlighting the rescuer going over the edge of the cliff. That combined with the thermal sensors and the speaker is great. That being able to actually communicate directly with a casualty or missing person is really useful, and we utilise it quite a bit.
Yeah, just to echo what Stuart was saying, those different types of attachments are truly invaluable. And they were first introduced, correct me if I'm wrong, on the enterprise line of the DJI Mavic 2, but then on the M300 with the spotlight, with the ability to adjust the aperture of that spotlight is absolutely amazing. One of our case studies of Barbara and Garrett, she was interviewed in post. She, from the patient's perspective, from the rescuee's perspective, when she saw the drone come up over the cliff and saw the spotlight shining down on her, it gave her a sense of relief knowing that she was therefore found. So not only does it aid us in being able to find our patients, but it also helps our patients know that we're on our way.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. So next question, what sort of training do you recommend for ground searchers operating with drone teams? That's also a great question, I think.
What we do in Weber County, since we have different types of teams that are on the grounds, whether they be our mounted teams on horseback or a motorcycle team or our climb team, we practice with them. And the most common scenario that where we interact with them would be if, let's say, the drone team finds our patient on the ground and we get the GPS coordinates, the latitude, longitude, and we'll feed that into our ground teams and practice them going out and trying to find it. Also, if they come up onto a cliff or something, we practice our communications where they'll call us and ask, how is this terrain? How does this progress? Should we deviate to the north? Should we deviate to the south? And practice the communication with the drone in the air so that they on the ground can also use all the resources available to them.
Yeah, I believe communication is key to the cooperation between the drone team and also the ground team.
And understanding what the capabilities are of the drone, what it can and can't do.
So at Lowland Rescue, we have a online learning module for all of our teams to do, which it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. And it's just about how to be safe around a drone team, but also how to be a remote searcher, so that any searcher we can hand a tablet or phone to and say, can you watch this drone footage and help us find the missing person? So yeah, it's part of our training.
And that actually reminds me of another maybe relevant topic that we were discussing with Daryl and the Search and Rescue Association Scotland previously. It is that maybe not only the ground team, they need to be trained, but also the victim, the hikers, I mean, going on the mountains, they also need to know the drone capabilities. because especially, for example, if we are using thermal cameras at night, it can see something, but it cannot see through those, for example, like trees, especially in the very tall trees in the mountains. So it's really difficult for us sometimes to find the victims under the trees, or they have kinds of shield or wearing insulated clothes. It's also adding more difficulty for drones to find them. So they also maybe need to know how they should react to drones. For example, if they see a drone hovering, in the sky, what should they do? And maybe they should go stay in the open area, something like that. I believe it is also an area to investigate more.
Hollywood doesn't help us out with that at all. They think that you have a thermal camera. That thermal camera should be able to penetrate and see inside of a tent or inside of a building, and that just simply isn't the case, unfortunately.
I'd say the really key thing for that thermal cameras is movement. Movement is really what we can pick out.
Yeah. So
if people can wave their arms and make themselves as visible as possible by moving, that really helps us.
Yeah, indeed. And next question is for Kyle. Under the FAA regulations, do you have standard limitations for distance from the pilot? Do you have exemptions for search and rescue to increase these distances?
No, we don't have any formal agreements with the FAA to be able to do anything beyond the visual line of sight as of yet. We always operate to make sure that the drone is within our line of sight and also under the control. So we don't necessarily have a specific set distance that's allowable. As long as you're able to see it without the aid of any kind of binoculars or spotting scope, you have to be able to use your own eyes, then you're within the legal requirements of the FAA.
I see. But for drones like the M300, we have the anti-collision beacons, which can increase the visible distance of the drone. Does that help to increase your working range?
It absolutely does help to be able to maintain line of sight of the drone, of course, and especially at night, and particularly with the position lights on the arms, so that you can always kind of verify and see what direction the drone is facing at all times. That's very important at night.
So also for the teams in UK, will the regulation be one issue that will impact how you operate the drones? Or doesn't have this kind of...
I'll let those guys handle that one.
We're exactly the same. We don't have any exemptions, and that we've got to remain visual line of sight with a recommendation of 500 meters. So we kind of work best we can within the regulations.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, we can apply for exemptions, but it's on a case by case. So it's quite a lengthy process, and it'll be for a set location, maybe a set time frame as well. So most of the time we're flying visual line of sight, but with the Coast Guard, we have done trials that are beyond visual line of sight over water.
I see. Okay. So next question: how many teams does Weber County have carrying drones?
That is a good question. We have our drone team. We have branched out to the climb team, mounted team, snowmobile team, motorcycle team, swiftwater team. So we have 6 total teams, I believe, that have access to the drones and are trained on them.
Okay. Okay, and next question. Will there be any battery improvements for cold weather operations? Oh, I believe that one is for me. Yeah, we also mentioned heated battery. Well, actually, for the DJI Enterprise platforms, we offer the self-heating batteries, like for the batteries of M300 and also the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. The battery will heat itself up with its power. So that could, for M300, it could operate in temperature as low as -20 degrees Celsius. So I believe that's quite a low temperature as well. So those are the enterprise features that you can have if you're using the enterprise drones. And next question, for SARRA, what are you using to record the flight path and overlaying on OS or other? Are you in discussions with the CAA about emergency exemptions in search and rescue?
No, we're not at the moment. And what we use for the overlay, we take like Kyle, we use air data UAV. So once we've carried out the flight, we then download the KML file and import it into any of the OS mapping softwares that you can get, such as Anchor Maps and various others. But no, we're not in talks with the CAA about any exemptions yet.
Okay. And the next question, I guess it's also for SARRA. The orange wrap on the drones, is it an actual wrap or painted?
It's a commercially available wrap, quite cheap, easy to apply, but do a really good job. Couldn't do without it, I don't think.
Yeah. And okay, the next one. The batteries are not supposed to be stored fully charged and automatically discharged at whatever point is chosen. What is your procedure as far as being always ready to deploy a moment's notice? This is also a good question, I think. Oh.
Well, what we do, we kind of we just accept the fact that our batteries are not going to last as long by keeping them fully charged. So that's we just suck it up and we just keep our batteries fully charged all the time and use them for as long as we can. And we accept the fact that this does cost more, but it's the price of saving lives.
Indeed.
We have weekly vehicle checks, so we have team members that will go into the team base and check vehicles, and they will rotate batteries around so that we have at least kind of 2 fully charged batteries ready to go. The others batteries that we carry chargers in all team vehicles, so we can get those charged en route, but we know that we've got at least 2 batteries to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar to Kyle. We keep our batteries fully charged, and it's just a constant process of checking that they're fully charged. We also a bit of laminated paper attached to the battery so that we can tally every time we've used it and recharged it, just to maintain that as well.
Yeah, well, actually, from DJI point of view, we're also trying to improve the experience or the performance of the batteries. For example, we have the health maintenance system in the M300, which you can read the battery cycles, and also you can get notification in case you need the maintenance for the drones, and as well as the batteries. And I think maybe in future we are also trying to optimize those features. For example, when some of the users, they need to keep their batteries fully charged, while the others, they maybe prefer a longer endurance of the batteries. So this is, for now, I guess for the time being, the practice of Kyle would be what you need to do if you want to run an emergency mission. Yeah. Okay, our next question is for SARRA. Do you have a search manual written that presents your search techniques? And are you willing to share it with the other search and rescue agencies?
We do have a search manual written. I would have to get in touch with the team leader to see if he's okay with sharing it. But yeah, just drop us an email. And
yeah.
We'll try and organize it.
Yeah, I will also share the email address from all teams at the end of the webinar. So if you're interested, you can reach out to them. And our next questions: do you use standard DJI pilot apps, or what other flight apps do you recommend? What do you use to stream video to the remote locations? Interesting question. Yeah.
So we personally fly the drones with DJI Go and use Drone Stream to stream the footage, which is a separate app.
And we use DJI Pilot, and we're just trialing at the moment live footage via, say, YouTube Live or various things.
Okay.
Yeah, we also just use the DJI software, which is actually very good. The pilot app has come a long way since it was initially released, to broadcast our feed back to our incident command in our command trailer. We broadcast using a broadcasting module that can be purchased online. It's about $1,500 to $2,000, and it broadcasts in HD. So we have the receiving station inside the trailer, and it's in our video. And on one of the shots, you can see that the antenna is dangling off of the smart controller plugged into the HDMI port. And then to broadcast to our ground teams, if we have cellular service, which we don't always have up in the mountains, Air Data, that app that we use, Air Data, will broadcast it anywhere. So even the sheriff sitting in his office or at home can also observe and watch what's going on.
Yeah, good. Yeah, those I believe will be the main broadcasting methods we offer right now. If you're using DJI Pilots, we have the RTMP streaming function that can stream your video to YouTube or the other platforms. And we have the HDMI output port from the remote controller that you can take the video to another encoder device for the broadcasting. And also, if you're using the third-party apps based on the DJI's mobile SDK, it can also maybe provide you the function for the video streaming. So those are the mainstream ways we have right now. And the next question, is anyone aware of RECO avalanche search equipment from a drone? I'm not sure about that.
The avalanche, it was an avalanche question. What was the first part of the question?
Is a RECO avalanche search equipment from a drone?
I'm sure it is. I was at the last ICAR meeting, the Alpine Rescue Congress, and I'm sure there was a drone there with the ability to have RECO attached. And again, with the avalanche side of it, with the mobile phone detection, there was another system there that could detect a mobile phone in avalanche conditions quite satisfactorily as well. And that was similar to RECO. It was available to be used on a drone, helicopter, or handheld. But yes, the technology is out there.
Okay, so maybe the audience, maybe he can also send you an email for more details and discussions.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
We don't have RECO here, but we have been able to rig one of our drones with some 3D printers to put a receiver transponder on the front of the drone so that you can see the results through the camera. And we've actually used that in practice, never in an actual avalanche, but we've been very successful being able to find the beacons really quickly, assuming that the lost subject has a beacon on. We've been able to find them in a debris field in roughly 90 seconds. So it's an exciting field. I hope that the technology catches up with what it is that we need at this moment.
Good. Okay. So our next question, how do you manage drone flying while also managing potential air units like helicopters in the same airspace? Any tips for trying to explain drone value to pilots who may be apprehensive or wrongdoing drones in their airspace? That's also a good question, I guess.
We have a liaison with Police Scotland that if the police helicopter or any other aviation asset is kind of inbound, then we land and remain on the ground until they've cleared the area.
Okay.
We have actually flown hand in hand with some rescue helicopters, some hoist helicopters. The key to all of that is the communication, the trust from the helicopter or whatever other aircraft. You need to be on the same frequencies with open communication. At least here in the United States, it is legal to do that, and we have done it, and we have trainings scheduled with the various hoist operations that we have here in our local area. So it can be done, but communication is the key. And as per almost all the regulations throughout the world, Manned aircraft always have the right of way. You need to stay out of their way.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
well,
I was going to say something quite similar to
Well-
Carl. Like the best way to avoid collision is separation, and the only way to ensure separation is through communication. And it does help for on our side that the police search advisor that is requesting us is also responsible for requesting the police helicopter. So they'll know the area where, if the helicopter's attending, the area that the helicopter is tasked to, and they'll know where we are as well, which can really help just keep that separation.
yeah, indeed. And also I knew, because we have like fire disasters, forest fire in China, and both the helicopters and the DJI drones were involved in the search mission. So the case happens is that, like Gemma and Kyle mentioned, we need to have separation and communication between the helicopters and the drones. And also I would like to mention that for DJI drones, we have a function called AirSense. It's actually putting a ADS-B sensor on the drone that it can warn you above the nearby manned aircrafts. And also in the future firmwares of M300, and we are going to make further improvements to this feature that, for example, you will be able to see the helicopter or the location of the helicopter in the camera view in the AR way. It's similar to the way you are seeing the home points and the other pinpoints on M300 now. So these are also efforts we're trying to make the collaboration between manned aircrafts and the drones more successful. Yeah,
That'd be great.
Yeah, hope so. And next question: to give instructions to personnel, what is the maximum distance of the drone for the speaker to be useful? So what's your experience?
On the Mavic 2 Enterprise, it would seem that you have to be within 100 feet. If you have the speaker turned up to 100%, it usually comes across as pretty garbled. If you're within 100 feet or so of the individual that you're trying to speak to at about 80% power, they're usually able to hear you pretty clearly.
Yeah.
I know that one of the things we have talked to you about is to like putting a siren sound on it, high intensity, so that might be useful for the casualty identifying the direction of the drone.
Yeah, it should be. And the next question: can one navigation at night with a thermal camera, or its night shot vision camera is required? Is there a sensor with night vision capabilities? Well, from DJI side, I would like to, maybe I would like to say first that we don't have specialized night vision sensors right now, but for the H20T, it has a night sim mode, so that it can sort of disable the IR filter to let more light in the sensor, so it can shows a better view at night, but the view will be black and white. So this is the night sim mode, and of course the thermal could also be used at night. So go on, Stuart.
I was just going to say that we've experimented that using a kind of fairly simple palette like the black and white palettes with thermal, obviously remaining visual line of sight as well, and at night just taking things really slowly, carefully, and making sure that you do a kind of really accurate risk assessment when you get on site before you launch.
Yeah. Okay, so next question for DJI. Your anti-collision is good. Could you increase this capability into something more like a terrain reading system? Oh, I think this has been the challenge for the search and rescue, especially in mountainous terrains, because I believe the situation for the time being is that we need to fly manually in case there is highs and lows. So in the terrain. However, I believe in future we will also try to bring new capabilities or new features to the drone, but maybe not the terrain reading system. But for example, we're also seeking possibility to integrate like the SRTM database into like DJI pilots, so that it can, when you plan the flight path, we can, we have the embedded data height or elevation information to allow the drone to fly like automatically up and downs in the area. So this is my understanding of these questions right now. And next one, do any of you use softwares to analyze photos for search, like LOC8? LOC8. I'm not sure what is that. Have
Locate.
You ever heard of
that? It's a software, yeah, it's called Locate. And what it does is that it takes all the pictures that you take from a grid. If you're doing a grid pattern search, it will go through and analyze. And you can ask the software to analyze, let's say, that the person you're looking for has an orange coat or blue pants, and you can ask it to highlight those things. And so it goes through and analyzes the individual pixels. We've used Locate, we've played with it, and there are a couple other different softwares out there that do similar things. Where software like Locate comes into where it shines is more in a recovery situation. In an active search, you really need to get on station quick and try to find your patient as fast as you can. The picture analyzing software tools are very time consuming, and you need to have a pretty high power computer to be able to analyze and run the software. So they are valuable, they have their place, but you don't use them on every single call out.
That's refreshing. And the next question, I will love a feature where I can see a trial path in the augmented reality over my live feed. That will help a lot. Do you guys also believe that this feature will be useful for the search mission?
If it helps them, I say, yeah, go for it. Sounds great, sounds cool.
Yeah. Sounds cool, but I guess from the maybe a more practical point of view, I think to show the path on the map, on the 2D map, it's maybe enough, yeah, to see where the areas you have searched. And next question is, for live broadcasting, one team mentioned AirData app. Can you talk more about the best way to set up live streaming and some possible issues with that? Oh, I guess we've already discussed that topic. So yeah, have you ever experienced any issues with live streaming, and which is the best practice you will recommend?
There are two issues with doing the live stream. One, you have to have service. A lot of times when you are conducting these searches, you're not going to have any kind of internet service. So that's the biggest issue with that. The second issue is, how do you keep it secure so that not everybody has access to it? And most of the systems that are out there have a means by which you can control who is and who isn't seeing your live feed.
Yeah.
The other thing I would add is latency. So especially when we're working over water, if the connectivity is dropping out, we might go up to say like 10-30 seconds of latency. And if we then spot someone that we think might be our missing person, we realize that actually that was, by the time we've communicated to boat teams, ground teams, that scene might have changed. So that's the other challenge with streaming at the moment, is that when we're working in the water where things move so quickly, then latency is really important.
Indeed. And I believe the challenge of video streaming is more dependent on the network and all the service itself rather than the drones. Yeah, and okay, the next question for Gemma. Are lowland search and rescue liaison with MREU on developing drone uses in search and rescue?
In the early days of so that's Mountain Rescue England and Wales. That's what the acronym is. And we have had an initial meeting with their drone leads. So I'm the head of air operations for all of Lowland Rescue, but with Mountain Rescue England and Wales, they're split up into regions. So there's quite a few drone leads in that charity. So yes, but very early days. We are sharing in that conversation, we were sharing our new training structure, our operations manual with them, and hopefully moving forward, we will be sharing a lot more and working a lot closer.
Okay, thanks. And next question. How long do you retain images and video following operations?
That depends on which team for us, because some of our teams, it's because our member teams work under MOUs with their police force, it's what's agreed with that police force. So one team, for example, doesn't record any imagery, they just use the real-time image to find the missing person. Another example is a team records and they kind of swap SD cards with the police at the end. So that's more the responsibility of the police force than it is on our SAR teams.
Okay.
To echo what she's saying, the law enforcement, at least here in the United States, have different regulations as to how long they can keep video. For search and rescue purposes, we keep all of our video indefinitely. We like to go back, and if we didn't have a successful search, we like to go back and review the video frame by frame as much as we possibly can, and then also use it for trainings. When we have our classroom trainings, we'll go over different scenarios, put a picture or video up on the screen and say, okay, our patient's here, where are they? So we try to keep all of our search and rescue video as long as possible.
Okay, so our next question. I will love a feature where I can see a trail path. Oh, I guess that's already the same we have previous. So next question. If there a external speaker for the M300? Well, for this question, we don't have DJI products for now, but we have some speakers provided by the third party developed based on the payload SDK. So you can check with your dealers, or if not, you can also email us, email enterprise.dji.com, and we will share with you the information. And next question is, what software do you use for automated sweep operations? I guess he's referring to like mission planning for like a certain area. Have you tried those kinds of softwares?
So SkyBound, without trying to plug it too much, SkyBound Rescue at the moment are in the process of developing our own software, which is taking that 7 years of research into best practice for mission planning and enabling teams. Sorry, my dog is giving some background noises right now, but yeah, taking that and making them into automated, optimized mission plans. It's not ready for market yet, but that is something that we're working on and trialing already. So that's personally what we've been using.
Yeah, well, actually for this question, I believe the mission planning part is also key to the search and rescue process. And also DJI, of course, we want to improve the user experience for now, because we have the mapping mission. However, it's not specially designed for search and rescue, and the camera just keep taking pictures during the mission. This is not what we want, and we know that, and we're working on that. So we're trying to bring new features to our drones and to pilots to the platform in future. So this is on one hand, and on the other hand, I know there are some third-party applications like the UGCS. They provided like different types of mission planning features, and I guess that might be useful for you right now. But also it's a little bit more costly, than DJI apps, which are free. Yeah. So that's the current case. And Okay, so I guess those are the questions we have for now. So yeah, let me show my screen and we can move on. So that's almost the end of our webinar today. For the coming webinar, it will be creating maps and models for emergency response on September the 20th. So stay tuned for this next webinar. And also, as Kyle mentioned during the presentation, we have a search and rescue white paper, which is actually a collaborated effort between DJI and also the other search and rescue experts, including Weber County Search and Rescue, Croatia Mountain Rescue, ACUT, and Air Bears. It will share with you step-by-step guidelines on how to build a search and rescue drone program. So you can find it on enterprise-insights.dji.com. And also we will be sending this white paper to all the registrants of our webinar today. And another thing I would like to mention is that for today's webinar, as well as the other contents like case studies and also tutorial videos and more, you will be able to find those interesting contents on DJI Enterprise YouTube channel. So remember to subscribe to our channel to find out more. Yeah. And for the, I believe many of you are interested in some topics that we've just discussed with our panelists today. So if you want to reach out to them, you can contact them with the email address shown here on this slide. And so that's it. Let me see if there are more questions from our audience here. Oh, we say hello from Steve Dube Hudson from the NH Fire Inspectional Service. Hi, Stephen. Yeah. And it's not a question. And also we see there is a comment. Thank you. All panelists are top quality. Very interesting webinar. Congratulations. Thank you as well. Thank you all the audience. Thank you for watching. And yeah, another thank you from the audience. So I would also like to say thank you for joining this webinar, and thank you our panelists, wonderful panelists today for all your presentations, and thank you for being so generous to share with us your knowledge and your experience regarding the drones and regarding the search and rescue process.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, so if no more questions today, that maybe will be the end of our webinar today. Okay, so thank you all. Bye-bye.
Right.
Stay tuned
Bye-bye.
for the next episode. Yeah, thank you.
Take care.